Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day everyone. We meet again. This is our second lesson and today I'm going to revise continuous writing. Let's start. Tuisyen Online, Perlis Mengaji. Continuous writing. 50 marks, 1 hour, 350 words. Writing good composition. You notice that there are only two colors, blue and white. Very mundane, very boring. So your story, whatever you write in your continuous writing should not be like this, but it should be like this. See? There are shades of colors, even the black part, the bluish part. Okay, so this is how you are going to write your composition. Types of composition. The first one is the narrative composition. This is the one that most students like to write. This is where you narrate, you write a story. In the exam, the beginning or ending is given, and recently the questions have multiple themes. Though the question focuses on a certain character, situation or place, your story must correspond with the beginning or ending and do not leave out the specific keywords. Look at the topics there. Write a story about a man who regretted his past actions beginning with. So this is a story about a man. It cannot be about a woman. And regretted his past. It's nothing that it is not related to anything that he was happy about. It was New Year's Eve, so it cannot be in February. It cannot be in April. Okay, and everyone was. Number 2, write about your experience handling an argument between your siblings and your story with my siblings finally understood that blood is always thicker than water. When the question says end your story with, you are going to end with that. Do not add anything else. And like I said just now, look at the multiple themes there. Write about your experience handling an argument with, between your siblings. So your siblings and your story with the given word. And the third one is write a story about a person who faced numerous hardships to achieve his dream. Okay, this is a question where you are not being given the beginning or the ending. So you have to set the story from the beginning till the ending all by yourself. Focusing on the question is about a person who faced numerous hardships. Numerous, meaning that that's more than one. And to achieve his dream. What is his dream? Okay, so this is what we mean by narrative composition. Okay, now the next one, features of narrative composition. What are the features of narrative composition? The first one is that you must have a plot. That is the flow of the story. Okay, and then you have the characters. Who are the people in your story? You describe them physical wise: skinny, pretty, small, tall, dark and handsome. Attitude: sly, cheerful, clever. Okay, and then you must have the setting. What do you mean by setting? The first one is the place. You decide where your story takes place. In your neighborhood, in the jungle, in the city, in a spaceship. So the setting, one of the setting is the place. The next one is time. 20th century, a few years ago, the Malacca Sultanate era, the year 2050, 1 hour, 5 minutes. Okay, so that is the two parts of the setting, that is place and time. And the ending. The ending must correspond with the exposition, that is the beginning being given, right? Okay. That is, those are the features of a narrative composition. Now, when I mention plot, this is the traditional plot of how you write a story. You have the exposition or the beginning, and then you have the complications or rising actions. What brings to the climax, the most important part in the story. Okay, and then you have falling actions, where the story will come towards the resolution, that is the ending. So whenever you want to write a story, you must have this triangle imaginary triangle inside your head, so that you know that you have to have the beginning. In the exam, sometimes the beginning is given, all right? And then sometimes the ending is given. And then so you have to correspond the exposition and the resolution. You have the rising action, you have the complication, which bring to the climax, and then you have the falling actions will bring to the ending. So that is how your story is going to be written, although you have only 1 hour. A story is still a story. Okay. Next, descriptive composition. Describe people, events, things, and places. A reader must be able to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and feel what you described. You must paint a picture with your words. You may combine facts with fiction, but it is advisable to focus on real events, people, places, and things. Focus on the layers in the question. We will come to that. Write at least 4 points, excluding the introduction and the conclusion. For every point, write a topic sentence. Okay, now look at the topics there. Describe a problem you once had while you were traveling. Explain what you did to solve the problem and what you have learned from the experience. This is what I meant by layers and the question. First is describe a problem. That is only one problem. Okay? While you were traveling, the second layer. The third layer, explain what you did to solve the problem. And then what you have learned from the experience. There are 4 layers in the question. All must be included. Okay? Next one. Write about the most popular teacher in your school who has done something remarkable for a student. The most popular teacher in your school, not in another school, not in the neighboring school. Done something remarkable for a student. What do you mean by something remarkable? If this teacher just belanja nasi lemak, the common thing being done, students would like to say, it is nothing remarkable. Almost every teacher does that. Okay, this has something this is something to be very remarkable, which you are going to, whenever you read about it, you are going to say, my hat's off. Okay. Describe your experience in another country that has changed you to be a better person. So this is your experience in another country. So if you are living in Perlis, you cannot write about your experience in Penang or in Melaka. Okay? In another country. So the nearest would be Thailand or Singapore. Okay, that has changed you to be a better person. So focus on the question, read the question before you decide what you want to write. Okay? All right, next. Number 3 is the factual composition. Rule number 1. Do not write this composition unless you have enough information. Do not misunderstand the question through wishful thinking. Organize your points before writing. Look at the topic, the first one. Deforestation is a pressing issue in your country. What are the steps that should be taken by the public to help the government solve this problem? So deforestation is not an easy thing to write. Do not write unless you have enough information. Number 2, the role of social media in the world today. Okay, the role of social media in the world today. Write 4 points, excluding the introduction and the conclusion. Do not forget the topic sentence. All right. Number 4 is the argumentative or persuasive composition. Okay. How do you do this? First of all, you have to develop logical arguments and discuss. Make your stand if the question wants your opinion. Weigh the pros and cons if the question wants you to discuss. If you are required to give the advantages and disadvantages, give 2 points for each. Look at the topics. The internet is a social threat to students. How far do you agree? State your reasons. Okay, so you state your reasons, okay, whether you agree. Science has caused more harm than good to humanities. What is your opinion? So make a stand. What's the best way to ace an examination? And the last one. Our youth should undergo national service training. How far do you agree? Explain your stand. So you have to develop logical arguments and discuss. Alright? Okay, so that is what we call argumentative or persuasive composition. You are going to argue, you are going to persuade. The next one is a reflective composition. What is a reflective composition? Probably you do not need a specialized knowledge, but you should be able to express your own thoughts, opinions, and feelings on ordinary happenings in everyday life. But you should show your depth of thought, well-organized ideas, and fresh and witty approach. Write at least 4 points, excluding the introduction and conclusion. For every point, write a topic sentence. Topics. The first one. My greatest problem as a teenager. Explain how you deal with it. How many problems should be there? My greatest problem. There is only one. Okay, so explain how you deal with it. What's your greatest problem? Money, friendship, exam, homework. Okay. The most important lesson you have learned from your secondary school years. Does it help you to be a better person? What kind of lesson is it here? Okay, this is not English and history. This is not at maths and biology. This is the lesson in life. This is where you realize that people who betray you are people you trust, people you love. Your enemies cannot betray you. That's the lesson in life. Right? What are the best ways for students to cope with stress in school? So you were going to tell what the best ways for students to cope with stress in school. Right? You should know. Right? That's what we call a reflective composition. Alright? You express your own thoughts, opinions, and feelings on ordinary happenings in your everyday life. Number 6, I call this the quotation composition. Okay, I call this. Okay, this is where you have the question with proverbs, wise sayings, idioms. Okay, there are several ways to write this composition depending on the question. You may write it as a factual account or description, advantages and disadvantages, attitude towards the subject, part or role played, chronology of events, or story. Crime does not pay. Write a story about a person who finally realized this is always true. Okay, so the story must be about the person who finally, the word finally realized this is always true. Finally, when he was about to go to the gallows? Well, it's up to you. Do not judge a book by its cover. Describe how you have learned a valuable lesson based on this proverb. Okay? Practice makes perfect. Explain. So, what do you practice? How are you going to be perfect? So, that is what I call the quotation composition. All right. Okay, now, what is a topic sentence that I have mentioned to you? Okay, it is a sentence that describes the main idea in a paragraph. It is a guide for you to write effectively, coherently, and stay on the topic. Okay, that is what we call a topic sentence. It is normally the first or second sentence, though it can be located anywhere in the paragraph. It regularly introduces the topic or gives the most useful information in the paragraph. It makes a statement or asks a question that the rest of the paragraph explains or supports with examples of what the topic sentence has said. So that is what we call a topic sentence. Okay. For descriptive, factual, argumentative, and persuasive, reflective compositions. Alright? So this is how you do this. Paragraph number 1 is the introduction. Paragraph 2, 3, 4, and 5 would be point 1, 2, 3, and 4 with a topic sentence in every paragraph. And finally, you have paragraph number 6, the conclusion. Right? You notice that I do not put the narrative composition here because narrative composition is being answered in another way. We will come to that later on. All right, now, Science has done more harm than good. What is your opinion? So the introduction, you make a stand whether you agree or whether you refute. All right, so this is an example that you want to say science has done more harm than good. What is your opinion that you disagree with this statement? So point number one, you are going to talk about health. That's the main idea. That's what we call the main idea. Then you write the topic sentence. Science has enhanced the development in the medical field, which helps to save many lives. And you go on to elaborate and explain in one paragraph based on the topic sentence that you have written that is science has enhanced the development in the medical field, which helps to save many lives. So the main point, okay, the main idea is health, right? And the topic sentence is that you are going to focus on the development in the medical field and go on to explain the whole entire paragraph. Okay? So now you know what is a topic sentence. Follow these steps to write your composition. 1. Read. Read all the 5 topics carefully. Analyze each question and understand what is required. No wishful thinking. Choose the topic that you know best. You know what is wishful thinking? This is the moment you see the question, you jump to conclusion, this is it. And you start writing. And 5 minutes before the chief invigilator make an announcement that he's going to collect the paper, you realize that you have written something else. Okay? So read carefully. Next, plan. You have to plan your composition. Brainstorm ideas. Write an outline. Draw a mind map. Think of the topic sentence for each paragraph of each point. Decide the tenses and words to use. Maybe around 5 minutes. Okay? And then start writing. Start with an interesting introduction. Write using clear and accurate language. Focus on the grammar, punctuation, and spelling. Choose the most effective ending. Okay? All right. Interesting introduction, effective ending. Next, revise. This is something some students forget to do. You have to revise, that is to check for errors. You make necessary amendments. Well, maybe 2 minutes. So utilize the 60 minutes given to you to answer this question. Be wise. Reminder. Please do not memorize compositions from reference books, magazines, or from websites. Okay? Then your composition will be considered as memorized text, or prepared text, or worse, you are going to be considered as plagiarizing somebody else's work. Read more to enhance your vocabulary, grammar, and style. Read. Read. It is never too late to be what we hope to be. Never, never, ever give up. Okay? To get good marks, remember 3 groups. Use them correctly. Singular and plural, present tense and past tense, male and female. Get the singular and plural correctly. The present tense and the past tense. Once you get the present tense and the past tense correctly, you will get all the other tenses correct. That 2 tenses are the basic. Male and female. Use he for your father. Use she for your mother. Use lovely for your sister. Okay, that is what I mean by male and female. So to get good marks in your continuous writing, you start with these 3 groups. Focus on these 3 groups correctly, singular and plural, the present tense and the past tense, and the male and female. Only then you branch out with all the other techniques of writing. Okay? All right. How to start your composition? All right. Interesting introduction. Okay? So now I'm going to tell you how to start your composition. Number 1. Here we go. Number 1. Startling information or fact. Start with a pertinent fact that clearly and strongly illustrates the point you wish to make. Then, elaborate with a sentence or 2. For example, teenagers of the 21st century and their problems. A recent survey on teenagers provided some food for thought for parents. It was found that about 70% of them smoke, 40% watched pornographic videos, and 14% took drugs. Several factors have been identified as contributing to these problems. Okay, startling, something surprising. Right. Number 2. An anecdote. What is an anecdote? An anecdote is a short story that illustrates a point. The loafing syndrome among teenagers. What are the measures to curb this problem? Ben and his friends do not go home after school. They hang out daily at a shopping complex to while away their time. There, they join students from other schools. Sometimes they go to a restaurant or cafe and play games on their smartphones or just enjoy each other's company. Ben and his friends are just the tip of the iceberg of the loafing syndrome among teenagers. Okay, that's an anecdote. Number 3, dialogue or monologue. Use an appropriate dialogue or monologue to start your story or convey a point. Use only 2 or 3 exchanges between speakers in a dialogue to make your point. This applies to your monologue too. Write about an unforgettable incident that happened in your residence. Help! Someone just snatched my bag. The screams shattered the still of the night. Suddenly lights were switched on and heads popped out of doors and windows. Hey, what's the matter? That is what I meant by 2 or 3 exchanges. Don't go beyond that. Number 4, you use a question. But what kind of question? You use a rhetorical question, which catches the reader's attention. What is a rhetorical question? A rhetorical question is a question where the answer is already there, where you can find the answer in the question. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. That's the title. Did you know that Malaysians throw away 1.2 million tons of newspapers daily? For every 10 newspapers bought, only 4 are recovered for recycling. Thus, the government has spearheaded a recycling campaign to encourage Malaysians to separate their waste. Can you see the question there? Did you know that Malaysians throw away 1.2 million tons of newspapers daily? And the answer is also there. Do not ask a question as if you are going to test the examiner. They are going to get offended, I believe. All right. 5. Okay. Use definition. What do? You define your topic. You make it simple. However, you must make sure you know the definition. Look at the example there. Describe a Malaysian festival that you have attended. Chinese New Year is an important festival celebrated by the Chinese at the turn of their traditional lunisolar calendar. Celebrations traditionally run from the evening preceding the first day to the Lantern Festival on the 15th day of the first calendar month. In our country, this festival is celebrated by all Malaysians regardless of creed and color. So define your topic. After you define, you can use quotation. This is where you use wise sayings, proverbs, idioms, etc. to start your composition. Water is very precious in many parts of the world. Suggest concrete ways to save water in your country. It is better to be safe than to be sorry. That is the message of the environmentalists to those who take water for granted. One day, we may have to face the situation where this transparent and nearly colorless chemical substance becomes scarce, and we will face numerous problems. Thus, we must take effective measures to save it, as it is one of the most plentiful and essential of compounds. Note that in this first paragraph, right, the word water is mentioned only once, to those who take water for granted. The next one, it is explained as transparent and nearly colorless chemical substance. And the next one, most plentiful and essential of compounds. Okay, so you use the wise saying there. It is better to be safe than to be sorry. It's a proverb there. And then a good composition is that you do not repeat the same words. Okay, all right. That's the quotation. Now, you can also use a general statement. What is a general statement? Use a general statement about your topic when then narrow it to a specific point of view. Example, ways to reduce pollution in our country. Of late, there has been an increasing concern about the impact of pollution on the environment and our society. The public outcry over the various environmental disasters in our own country should be lauded. How do we resolve this problem? So that is a general statement, but then you have to narrow it to a specific point of view. Okay, that's 7. Now, number 8 is listing. You list characteristics, features, benefits, etc. For example, write about a person you will never forget. Caring, kind-hearted, funny, and not to forget the captivating smile. That is my best friend, Kauthar Khalid. Notice that although you are going to list the characteristics, notice that there are only 4. 1, caring, 2, kind-hearted, 3, funny, and the 4th one is captivating smile. Do not list 20 characteristics in the opening paragraph. Okay? There are already 8 ways the listing. Number 9 is you are going to use your personal experience. Describe your own experience. For example, write about a person you will never forget because of her or his virtues. It was late evening when I arrived home after a long and tiring day at the office. I was fumbling with the keys of the front door when I heard someone calling my name. It was none other than Aunt Hannah with her warm smile. Fried noodles with lots of bean sprouts for you. Her kind voice was like music to my ears. Your personal experience, something related to you. Alright. Number 10, you are going to give your opinion. Alright. State your view on the topic. For example, write about a person you will never forget because of her or his virtues. The same question as in number 9, where you put your personal experience. So for your opinion, you are going to give your opinion by saying that Aunt Hannah is the best relative anyone could ask for. I say so not because she is my late mother's sister, but because of the numerous things she has done for me. My mom died when I was 15, and Aunt Hannah was the one who took care of me ever since. So your opinion is that she is the best relative. And then you support. Why do you say she's the best relative anyone could ask for? Okay? So you give your opinion. So there are altogether 10 ways for you to start your composition. Use them wisely, correctly. And we are going to talk about techniques in good paragraph writing. Okay? Make sure there is only one main idea in one paragraph. Avoid generalization. A topic sentence that is too broad is impossible to support in a single paragraph. So one main idea in one paragraph. Number 2, elaborate and support your main ideas using the following methods. Okay? The first one is that you give examples in the form of facts, a story, or an argument. Do you know that cigarette smoke contains a cocktail of more than 4,000 chemical compounds such as carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, ammonia gas, and nicotine? You see, such a scary fact over there. The next one, supply further details or information. Most word processing software gives you several options for printing. You can print a copy or several copies of the same document with different fonts. Besides, you can also print a range of pages. What is more, you can even preview a document before printing it out. So you supply further details or information. Next one, you be more specific. Be more specific. Focus. For example, many Malaysian drivers are reckless on the road. They overtake at all costs and often travel way above the speed limit, risking their own lives and the lives of others as well. So be very specific. Many Malaysian drivers are reckless. That is, they overtake at all costs and often travel way above the speed limit. Okay? So be specific. Use transitional expressions. A transition can be any word, phrase, or sentence that clearly shows the reader how an idea or a paragraph relates to the one or ones before it. Use the following transitions. Okay, the first one. Okay, to add to what you have just said. This is where you use also, similarly, in addition, in other words, furthermore, then, moreover, in the same way. This is when you want to add to what you have just said. Adding. Okay? Next, to use a specific example to what you have just said. So you say, for example, for instance, to illustrate, and such as. Okay, that is to use a specific example. To show sequence in your points. So you say first and foremost. The second point to consider is another advantage is last but not least. First, second, finally, initially, next, and lastly. This is to show sequence, right? Of course, first and foremost is going to be the first one, and last but not least is going to be the last one. Okay. Next one, to indicate that you're about to contrast what follows to what came before. This is contrasting. Okay. This is where you use but, on the other hand, by contrast, despite, yet, nevertheless, on the contrary, and however. Okay. This is to indicate you are about to contrast what follows to what came before. Contrasting. Okay. All right. To indicate that you will be drawing a conclusion from previous information on the composition, or to add a sense of finality. You're coming to an end. This is when you say, in conclusion, thus, in summary, therefore, consequently, to conclude, accordingly, and as a result. You indicate you are about to come to the end. You are about to stop. Okay? So you use all this. Maintain unity and coherence. What is this? Unity and coherence. Make sure that you stay on the topic introduced in the topic sentence. This means all your paragraphs should point towards your main topic. Alright? So you maintain your unity and coherence. Stay on the topic. That is why you have to plan your composition before writing it, so that you maintain the unity and coherence. Okay? Then, each paragraph should deal with a different aspect of the main topic. In other words, do not shift from the main idea into another unrelated idea. That will destroy the unity and coherence of your paragraph. Okay? Okay. That is why you have the topic sentence. Remember? Okay. If you write something that does not belong anywhere in the composition, that is incoherence. If you write an incoherent composition, you won't be able to get good marks, of course. Okay. Writing effective conclusions. Okay. Interesting introduction, effective conclusions. How are you going to conclude your composition in a very effective way, so that the reader, or to be more specific, the examiner, is going to be very interested to read your composition. And then, if your writing is effective, then you will get good marks. 50 marks there is very important. Okay, now let's see how to write effective conclusions. The first one is that you summarize your main points. You summarize your main points. So you can say it like this. As we have seen, peer pressure and media influence are the main reasons teenagers take up smoking. Thus, it is important to look into these reasons when considering solutions to this problem. Okay, you have written 4 points. Okay, and so for your conclusion, you summarize your main points. Okay, peer pressure, media influence are the main reasons. Okay, there are other reasons, but those 2 are the main reasons. Okay, all right. Next, express your hopes about the topic. Look at the example. How can you express your hopes? Finally, it is hoped that as people become more aware of the need to recycle, more will come forward and get involved in environmental causes. So you express your hopes. Okay? What is your hope? That people become more aware of the need to recycle, more will come forward and get involved in environmental causes. Okay. Next one, you express the implication of the topic to the future and issue a call for action. Look at the example. The situation does not augur well for Malaysia's future if teenagers continue to loiter and waste their time. Something needs to be done urgently to arrest this problem. So you are expressing the implication to the future. That is, teenagers continue to loiter and waste their time. All right, this situation does not augur well for Malaysia's future. Okay, you call for action. You say something needs to be done urgently to arrest this problem. So you express the implication and you issue a call for the action. The fourth way to end your composition is to use a rhetorical question and a call for action. Okay? But you must remember, if you start your composition with a rhetorical question, do not end it also with another question. Alright? So, for rhetorical question, choose whether you want to use it for the introduction or for the conclusion. Look at that. Shall we just sit back and wait until landfills overflow? Let us get involved and do something about it. Let us recycle today. Okay, there's a rhetorical question there. Of course, you're not going to sit back and wait until landfills overflow, right? That is the rhetorical question. And what is the action there? Let us get involved and do something about it. Let us recycle today. It is not only the ending of a composition, but I'm also calling you to recycle today. Okay? All right. Now, number 5, you close with a lesson or moral value. All right? Rina learned a valuable lesson that day. She should not judge a book by its cover. Fortunately, her parents were able to help her. Close with a lesson or moral value. The moral value is that don't judge a book by its cover. Alright? That's a lesson for her to live by for the rest of her life. And number 6 class. This is specially for narrative composition. But you must remember what you are going to describe must correspond with the title, with the topic given in the question. Write a story about a man who finally found the person who helped him when he was a very poor boy, ending with, yes, this is the person I have been searching for. I owe him my life. So this is about a man finally found the person who helped him when he was very poor. Okay, very specific there. Okay, when he was a very poor boy, ending with. Okay, the room was airy and cheerful, and the evening breeze, gently swayed the beautiful curtains framing the windows. He looked at the frail old man sitting on a rocking chair in the middle of the room, staring at the wall. There was soft music from a small blue radio on the table next to him. Andrew took a deep breath, turned to the male nurse standing next to him, and said, yes, this is the person I have been searching for. I owe him my life. So you see the description of the room, okay, airy and cheerful, evening breeze gently swaying the beautiful curtains, okay, frail old man in the middle of the room, soft music, blue radio. So you describe the scene, people or places. But remember, your description must correspond with the question. Okay, all the best in writing your composition. All right, now, look at the picture there, that sunset. Sample, answer, narrative, composition. Okay. Write a story about a man who regretted his past actions, beginning with, last holiday, I returned to my hometown for the first time in 20 years. All right? This is very important because you are going to see the introduction, the climax, and the ending of the story. Okay. Last holiday, I returned to my hometown for the first time in 20 years. I returned to the coast, to the shore where I grew up, to the center of the deep, vast ocean of the Pacific. Christmas was 3 days away. I was feeling serene and contented of finally being able to come back to where I was so fond of, but had left with so much guilt and disappointment. My mind was preoccupied with myriads of things I wanted to show my family, with hopes that they could find it in their heart to at least forgive me, even if they could not bring themselves to love me back. My heart was full of anticipation. I could not wait to meet my twin little sisters, who must have grown up into beautiful young ladies. They were 14 when I left them. I saw a glimpse of my image at the train window, and I noticed I had changed a lot. They probably would not recognize me. But the one I wanted to see most was my mother. The last moment that I had before I left her, or rather she left me, came back into my mind, vivid and clear like a movie. How I wish I could turn back time. I was fidgeting the whole day. I kept looking out of the window, half expecting to find a police car rushing out to get me. I paced up and down the house. I locked all doors and windows. The feeling of insecurity was gulping me down its throat. What I had done last night was totally an utter crime. When my mother got back from her work as a clerk in a financial company in town, I pretended that everything was fine. She asked me to help with dinner because my sisters would be back from the field trip in an hour. The work took my mind off my worry for a while, until there was a knock on the door. I dropped the plate I was holding as Mom went to answer the door. There was a police car in the yard when I looked out of the window. I had to think fast, but just as I was going to sneak out of the back door, my mother called out to me. Her voice was jittery. I had to go. I had no choice. She was looking at me with thousands of questions written all over her face. The officer said I had to go to the police station to verify some matters. They were playing it nice for my mother, for I knew they must have found out my crime. It was so simple, like ABC, when you spilt your own blood at the crime scene and had your fingerprints all over the fatal weapon. Witness might lie to the police, but not your own DNA. And it was simpler when you were not an expert. I guess that was me. They handcuffed me and took my mother as well. They said she could come if she wished to. We sat at the back of the police car without a word. I knew she wanted to ask, but the presence of the two officers prevented her from doing so. We seldom rode in a car, let alone a police car, and little did I wish to be riding in one. But there we were, uncertain of what to come. I wished Lady Luck was somewhere near. I wished for a mistake, for a miracle, but I had no faith because I had done it. Last night was a disaster. I had gone out, got drunk with my friends, and we met another group who started a fight. Did I tell you I was drunk? I did, and I was. In fact, I had a bottle of liquor in my hand. I had crushed the bottle in half and had actually rammed it into the chest of one of the other group's people. They were shouting profanities, and my friends pulled me out of the fight, and we ran away. I was in a daze. They shook me awake and told me the whole thing, and I was dumbfounded. We were dead meat. It was supposed to be a harmless, ordinary fight like the ones we had all the time. But it was not. It had wounded a person. I had wounded him. I went home with a bad hangover and a sick feeling. At 4 a.m., Angelo called and told me that the guy had died. The sick feeling shifted to horrible and horrendous. I felt dead. When we arrived at the police station, they took my fingerprints and a sample of my blood. I knew nothing could save me. They put me in a room, handcuffed with a cop at the corner. They said they would give me a lawyer because I deserved one, and also because I could not afford for any legal counsel. My mother was there with me. Her empty look made me feel guiltier. She asked me to tell the whole story, and I spilled out all my guts. She cried and finally said, "How could you do this to me, Danny?" She told me not to look for her again, that I had disappointed her and my late dad, that she had never known me. With that, she left me with nothing at all. Although my lawyer was brilliant, trying her very best not to get me convicted, the evidence was too perfect to deny. I was well aware of that. Despite my clean crime record, the judge still decided that I deserved to spend, if not all, then part of my life in the prison. I got a 20, and I regretted all the time I was there. I made a vow to be better, to remedy my mistake to my mother. Whatever I had done, I have had my pay, and I had learned enough. The train slowed down and finally halted. I eagerly jumped out of the coach, knowing that I was getting nearer. I walked to find the street I live in and found my house. There must be some mistakes. There was nothing there, only some burnt stumps of what used to be a house. I had to find my mother. I had to meet her and tell her I was sorry. I walked some distance and went to a neighbor's house. It was the same neighbor, but I did not think she recognized me. Well, I left the area at the age of 21, and now, more than 40, I asked of Mrs. Suarez and her daughters. She died terribly, young man. She died of heartbreak a year after her only son went to jail. She couldn't take it. She felt she had failed to make him a good person. She forbade anyone from telling him if she died. Her daughters died in a fire 2 days after that. It was very tragic. Who are you? Please come in. I said thanks and walked back to where my house used to be. My whole soul crumbled to pieces. There was a humongous guilt weighing me down. My chest was filled with icicles of bittersweet memories stabbing me to death. I slumped myself down the remaining wall of what was left there. How I wished I could turn back time. Written by Nurul Fatihah Binti Aziz. Please do not memorize this sample answer because this text is written by my eldest daughter 15 years ago, and I have been using it for many, many years as a sample text of how to write a narrative composition. All right? Okay. The difference between who you are and what you want to be is what you do, said Bill Phillips, the American entrepreneur and author. Okay. You might not be the best, but do everything with zest. Never be afraid of any test. Let God decide the rest. Fazilah Dahman. All right? Okay? Thank you. Stay at home. Okay. Stay at home, everyone. Duduk rumah. Hapus COVID-19. Thank you, frontliners. Perlis Mengaji. Thank you, everyone. I hope that you have learned something from today's lesson, and all the best in your coming SPM exam. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.